All right, we're back here on a special edition of the Chasing West podcast where I am now joined by Coach Ralph Potter, McCallie High School. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Very good, man. Very good. I am excited to talk to you this evening. We have a lot to cover, but your team, you haven't lost in a while. Have you forgotten what it's like to lose? Have you? Do you have to remind yourself? Do you want to remind yourself what losing feels like?
No, you don't ever forget what you always remember your losses,
hmm
So no, we haven't forgotten at all.
Was this about what you expected? I mean, I know like coaches go into every year and they're just like, you want to win every game, but every year to year, you get a feel for your roster. You do the summer workouts, you do your installs, and you look at your schedule and you look around the league and your region and where everything's going to be. But did you like before the 2021 season, were you thinking, man, this group's special and we should be able to run the gauntlet and put together an undefeated season?
When we got them all together in camp, we could tell that we were going to be pretty good. Um,
hmm
and at that point, you actually usually have more pressure, or you feel more pressure in that kind of year when you feel like you've got a really good chance at it. But
hmm
we kind of felt like it would be all right.
What this is so one of the things I thought was so interesting because of how difficult everything was in 2020 with COVID protocols and every school doing like different stuff. Some counties were doing different things and losing summer practice and then just being forced to just do installs on the fly. And a lot of people were not able to put in what they wanted to put in 2020. Were you able to put in a lot of what you wanted to do in 2021? Was it a pretty normal season? Were you pretty pleased with the difference between 2020 and 2021?
Yeah, it was totally normal for us.
Mhm,
We didn't have any sort of mitigations or anything like that at all. 2020 was it was a great year, and it was a bad
mhm,
year, all in the same time. We had a great team, and but we didn't have any preseason practice at all because we got COVID and had to go home, and so that was we didn't really get good at all until we had to play our way into it. It,
mhm,
it was probably like week 3, week 4 before we really started to click, and then we got hurt a lot, and then had to come back from that. 21 was a really normal feeling year for us. We had the crowds back. All our schedules are back. We weren't having to do all the protocols, in terms of masking and of making sure, taking temperatures and all that sort of thing. So, we were happy to see the fans in the stands, things like that.
What, so now that it's, been the end of the 2021 season and you have the undefeated season, is there you've told me, and a lot of coaches say this, and I do believe this in terms of just like you remember the losses more than you did the wins; those stick with you more. But is there anything specific that now that I mean, we're in March now, and you've had a couple months to reflect and think back about the 2021 season? Is there still something that stands out to you? Is there a game, a moment? Do you still reflect on anything from the 2021 season that sticks out a lot to you?
We were probably the most dominant team that we've had, but there were two moments in particular that we really almost lost it.
hmm
And one was at what Montgomery Bell Academy. We never,
hmm
in all the years I've been at McCallie, we've never actually won at Montgomery Bell Academy.
hmm
And for us, the place is, it's like a mythic place of darkness, and so we went up there and we felt like we had a better team.
hmm
They were good, but we felt like we were a little bit better. And we found ourselves down, I think, more than 10 points with about 8 minutes left in the game.
hmm
Um, and William Riddle hit Xavier Gallaudet on a long pass, and we got a couple of stops on defense, and we're able to get another score, and ended up winning by 3. And I thought that was a huge accomplishment. And then in the quarterfinals, we were ahead 42-14 with 6 minutes left in the game. Now think about that, 42-14, six
Yeah.
minutes left in the game, and almost got beat. We ended up winning 52-35. We turned the ball over. We didn't do what we should have done, and they got hot.
Mhm,
Our defense, they started playing make it, take it, with onside kicks.
mhm.
thing we know. I mean, we can't. I mean, our defense has been on the field like 30 straight plays, and we
Mm,
did make a couple of plays in the last minute or two. They had the ball a touchdown down on our 9-yard line, um, first down. With about 2 minutes left in the game, and
mm.
so, as my linebacker Aaron Crowder said, his football life flashed in front of his eyes at that moment. But I thought those two moments where we had to really kind of dig deep was, the defining moments of the year.
Is that something you have to adjust? I mean, you talk about them being on the field for 30 straight plays, but that is something that it seems like a lot more defensive coordinators and defensive-minded coaches are having to think about is just the amount of plays is just different. Like it's football has changed so much in the last decade on that front. How difficult has that been for you to adjust? Of like part of it's conditioning, but part of it is like there is a limit to how many plays is feasible for these guys to just stay healthy and stay upright and to just stay ready for the next week, right?
Yeah, and it does influence how you play the game holistic.
Mhm,
You know, and so we become much more. We used to be fast ourselves on offense.
mhm,
And we become much more of a take our time sort of offense, and very physical
mhm,
offense because we want to limit the number of shots that they get at us on defense, and so that's changed quite a bit. And then defensively, I think the first series of downs on any possession is really important.
hmm,
The first and a couple, because if you can get us 3 and out, or if you can get them stopped within 4, 5, 6 plays, um, you've got a pretty good, it's good. But if
mhm.
the longer it goes on, you let them get up into 8, 9, 10 plays, your kids get tired. And
Yeah,
so at that point, you can sub if you have to, and we haven't gotten into everybody playing one of these quick fast teams. They get all these mysterious injuries every 5 plays. We haven't done anything like that, to try to stop people. But for us, being able to get ahead, control the game with our offense, and get quick stops and short drives, and that's the key for us. And you really, and if you're playing a team that's really good at it,
uh-huh,
you never you never really have enough points either, and
mhm.
because at any point a team can get hot on you, especially if they get a quarterback that can do some things, and so you don't ever really feel comfortable with that.
Was that kinda like what happened at the 42-14 playoff game, the quarterfinal game? It's just you're never fully out of a game in college foo or in football anymore, it seems
Right.
like.
Yeah, and and I was calling defenses, and
Mhm,
I kept thinking, the time is against them.
mhm.
The quarterback's going to make a mistake, and we had honestly we hadn't really practiced on their passing game. We weren't too worried about it.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have a lot of stuff in, and so we just played, kind of a prevent defense there for
Mhm.
a good long while, just playing the odds, and it just seemed like, and finally we just had to start coming, and when we did, we made a couple of plays, and that was it. But I probably almost waited too long, to do that.
Is that something what would you say is your preferred defensive style? Are you do more of a nickel team? Are you more do you like to send for more? Are you good with just sending for? Does it depend on the matchup week to week? What do you like doing most defensively?
Well, it's not. It depends on the offense that we're playing and the nature of
Mhm,
our team. So we're going to try to match that up as much as we can.
mhm,
My philosophy is to keep it really simple for your kids, but make it really complicated for the offense.
hmm,
Because I was, I called plays for like 25 years offensive.
mhm,
And I really felt like if I knew how a defense was systemized,
mhm,
in other words, everybody over there is coordinated, and they have to look at that they've been assigned something to look at, and
mhm,
and what that key does, they're going to do certain things. And so if you understand, if I give them this formation, they're going to be in this defense, and this is their keys, then I've got a huge advantage. And so defensively, I don't want to ever give our opponent that. And so we try to be as multiple as we can be, and not make it overly complicated for our own guys.
What's changed the most in terms of coaching for different positions? Do you think coaching defensive line, pass rushers has gotten harder? Is it been coaching linebackers just because they have to be leaner and faster and be able to, there are just more assignments and pass coverage? Is it more corners and safeties? What's the hardest to coach now on the defensive side?
Positionally, I think it's all gotten a little bit harder.
Hmm.
I don't know if I can parse that out for you, but what I will say about that is that, and I think this is even more true in high school than it is in college.
Hmm.
The variety of offenses that you see in high school is tremendous. I mean,
Hmm.
because you're going from you're playing a school that's run the wing tee for 35 years and really knows everything about it, and then the next week you're playing a team that lines up in 10 personnel and is going to throw it 30 times a game, and so it's really really difficult. It's a completely different game plan, completely different mindset, and so I think it's pretty tough on everybody to be able to handle that, I think, and to be able to have players and coaches that are flexible enough in their mind to do it. So that's the challenge, is to get your guys to be able to understand different things, um, and to narrow it down for them, because you can't stop everything, but you got to let them know, okay, we're going to take this away from them, and then if they beat us, they beat us, but and to understand how we're going to do that. I think all that's really important.
Interesting. How have the kids changed over the course of your coaching career? Is there anything fundamentally different? Is it easier to coach today's kids versus yesterday's kids? Is it basically the same, just little differences? What have you noticed?
I honestly, I suppose the kids have changed.
Hmm.
I've changed more than the kids have, I think.
Yeah. How have you
Uh,
changed?
well, I mean, the stuff that I used to do, to get teams ready to play,
Hmm.
get arrested for today. I wouldn't have any players left,
Hmm.
and that's not because uh, I was a better coach then. It was because I didn't, I mean, you're just young and
Hmm.
sort of foolhardy, and you're going to try to make people do certain things, and it's so hopefully when you get a little bit older and you get smarter, you get wiser, and you've seen more stuff, and you're more confident in your own self, as you get older, you become more integrated yourself as a person, so you're not sometimes a young coach's ego gets wrapped up in it, and anytime you're coaching to protect your own ego, it's not good, and
Hmm.
so as you get older, hopefully you get over that a little bit, and you start coaching for the kid, and not being in it for your own satisfaction.
What do other coaches, I'm sure you talk to other coaches a lot. What do they tell you is like the biggest pain in the ass about playing your team year over year? What do they hate most about playing you guys?
I don't know. They don't share that with me.
What would you guess? What would you guess?
Um, well, when teams play us recently, they've just said, "Well, you've got some really good players, and we do, and we got
Mhm,
good players and some good coaches, and so we're going to be really prepared." What I would like them to say
mhm.
is that our guys are really well prepared and they play really hard. You know,
What was your favorite moment from the 2021 season?
well, probably when we won the state championship,
Mhm,
and when you go through that kind of game, and you see the excitement that the kids have, and they're appreciative, and you know that makes it worthwhile.
what was running through your mind? Because like, in the state title game, I mean, your defenses only gave up 14 points in the final 2. weeks of the season. So both games were, well, like even though what we said with the quarterfinals that never any game is not technically over, you
Mm.
did probably have a good idea early on in that game where you're like, oh, we're going to be state champions. Like this is probably happening. What where did your mind go? What were you thinking about?
Well, honestly, that didn't happen until we scored our last touchdown.
Okay.
I really didn't think that. And when we got the last one, I thought, okay, we're probably
Mm-hmm.
okay. But as soon as you have the thought, you drive it out of your mind. Because you just can't afford to think that way. Um,
How much did you allow yourself to enjoy the championship before you're like, all right, let's shift the focus to next year?
well, you got to operate on two different tracks.
Okay.
I'll
What do you mean by
just
that?
well, you know, I'm still enjoying it.
Okay.
It's fun. It's fun.
Mhm.
The it's fun to see the excitement of the school and the people. There's a deep satisfaction that I have, after accomplishing what we did, and three times straight, and it was in our town. I mean, that's about as good as it gets,
Yeah.
and so I. But on the other hand, I mean, the next day I was doing stuff,
Mhm.
and and so and for the next 2 months it was really 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 busy, but since then it's calmed down a little bit, so I'm trying to conserve a little bit of energy right now. But
There you go. What was the hardest stretch? What would you say was the hardest stretch of the season last year?
for the hardest stretch of the season, well, I would say probably to us it's really always the middle part of the season.
Hmm.
um because you kids start to get a little bit tired, but they can't see the end. Um,
Mhm.
we always have Baylor in there,
Yeah.
and that's a real stressful thing. I'm glad it's over every year, and but yeah, that's a whole season in itself.
Interesting. So this is I don't know if you'll answer this, but not to prop up any one kid in particular, but did you have one guy who you would cite as like, yeah, this was our MVP of the season? Like if I had to point to one guy who was the biggest leader, the most important player for our team in
Can
2021.
you give me three?
Yeah, you can give me three. Yeah.
Well, one of them was William Riddle,
Hmm.
who just a great worker and a great leader, really led our offense, and just very well respected. The other one was Aaron Crowder, and Aaron was our middle linebacker for 3 years, and we're going to miss him terribly because he was a culture definer. He literally this past year he was like a coach. I mean, he would get on the kids, almost to the
Really?
point where you go
Yeah.
like, Aaron, you better than me, you know. But Aaron set the tone in practice. He made sure guys were getting where they were supposed to be. If I had an issue with a player, Aaron would be the first guy I would go to and say, what do you think here? And so he's just tremendously mature young man and really great football player, and leaving with really is the central figure on the defense for 3 years. He's got 3 state championships, so that's pretty impressive. Um,
So
and
you're
then
not going to get a COVID year for him. You're not going to get one of those extra COVID years that you can't do that. No.
bring him back against it in an assumed name or something like that.
Hmm.
But and then the other one was John Cole McAdams, and John was he was our strong safety this year, and only got to play really this year. He started as a junior as a corner, started out that way, and just got toasted and had a bad year. And really was so proud of him because he fought back from all that adversity. And he was, if Aaron was the daddy, John was the mama. John John was the guy who was always encouraging, and he was always there. Hyper conscientious. This is the guy who really, I mean, he had a good, healthy fear of losing. You know, I mean, and that's a great motivator. And so he made sure that every stone was unturned, and um, it was it was really good for him. It was really good to see him emerge and be that kind of leader.
Do you already have some names in mind for next year? Who's going to take that mantle? How does
Well,
that go? Like, do they talk to him? Yeah.
somebody was asking me about that today, and
Mm-hmm.
because they were asking who our 17 was. 17 is a big deal for us. It's
Mm-hmm.
we give to 17 before the season to the guy that's going to be that guy.
It's like 12 for Parkview with Jeff Rancor's number back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point, I really can't say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting every year to see who's going to emerge because I expected like Aaron and
Mm-hmm.
William, but I didn't expect John Cole to do that. And so it's always a real pleasure to see who kind of steps into that. But we usually go through camp, our 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
of camp, and then we do it at the end of those 2 weeks.
What did you think of Calhoun? Coach Clay Stevenson listens to this podcast, so he's going to be interested to hear what your thoughts are on this.
Well, Calhoun's got a great program,
Mm-hmm.
and they had some really good players. And we did well against them both years, and but we really enjoyed the game. I mean, going down to Calhoun this past year was an experience. It's like
Mm-hmm.
they got the football stadium is like inside this little village, and so it was a we really felt like that was a great opponent for us to play, and we really feel like that when we beat them, it was something that was really special. Yeah.
What is your favorite part about the off season? What do you enjoy most?
um, well, what do I enjoy the off season? Just trying to relax and get away from it a little bit, and
Are you good
kind of
at that?
recharge. Yeah, I'm better at it now than I used to be.
Okay. Golf, fishing, hunting. What are
Well,
your hobbies? Yeah.
I play a little golf. I'm
Okay.
a jogger. I do a lot of running, stuff like that.
Okay. What's
Yeah.
your so how many? What's your mileage? I'm a runner too. I like before we did this podcast, I just did my 2 miles. So I'm curious now. What's the routine on the running front?
Oh, the routine. Well, I'm
Hmm.
older. I
Yeah.
really started this probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
Uh.
Um, and so I have to say I don't know whether I've got long COVID or something like that, but I don't know. I've declined over the last couple of years. Um, I guess it's just age, but anyway. But I try to run 3 or 4 days a week. You
Okay.
know, so I usually do about half an hour during
Mm.
3 days a week or 2 days a week, and then on the weekend I'll try to take a long run. So that might be anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, and
Okay.
so last Sunday I ran 10. So
Oh,
that was a little
for
bit
fun.
longer than I have run recently. So
How are you feeling after?
it's all right. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it encouraged
Very
me.
cool. There you
Yeah,
go. I don't really want to do 10 right now. I got some right knee stuff that I don't want to risk that right now. But
yeah,
we'll see. I mean, it's funny. I mean, it's different. Like the recovery process is all different. Like me getting older and you just like even pick up basketball was like something that you just took for granted when you were younger, that you could just go play with your friends for 4.5 hours and just be fine and go do whatever right after. If I played pickup basketball right now for 4.5 hours, I'm not doing anything for 2 days
yeah,
minimum. Like I am icing my knees. I am not moving. I'm done, but it happens quick. It happens without you realizing that time is coming, and it's just kind of wild how quickly that can change.
yeah. I wouldn't even attempt it. Everybody. If I tried to play basketball or something like that,
Mhm.
all the guys would go, "Coach, no, you're not." Or, yeah. Yeah. I used to be like when I was young, I would
Mhm.
demonstrate, and people would go, "Oh,
Mhm.
you still have it." And then
Mhm.
then I went through a phase of, they'd laugh at me. I try to do something, and
Mhm.
actually just start snickering. And
Mhm.
now I'm to the phase where if I try to demonstrate, they actually get concerned for me. So it's like, "Coach, you're gonna get hurt. Don't do that anymore." So,
That's how I am with my dad now with everything. But
mm,
my dad's an ex-Marine, so I think he's just gonna keep doing it. I've learned that I can be concerned, but he's still gonna do what he's gonna do. So there's
yeah,
really you're just along for the ride.
mhm.
Um, what do you like to read? Are you a big reader?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
you
do you
got
like to read?
What do I like to read? Well, historically, anything about history,
Mhm.
um, but I'm a recent Catholic convert,
Okay.
so I read a lot of theology, so
Mhm.
a lot of philosophy. Um, so my favorite book recently is a book by Joseph Ratzinger, who became Benedict the 16th.
Mhm.
It's called An Introduction to Christianity. It was written in 1969, right after Vatican II, and it's an interesting title,
Mhm.
that you would think that you'd have to introduce Christianity 2 millennia after its beginning. So
Mhm.
that intrigued me. So I enjoyed that book. Yeah.
Okay. Do you get time during the season? Like, do you get time for any of that kind of stuff during the year, or is it just like, all right, here's all the stuff for January on, but like it's all pushed away?
Yeah, during the season, it's hard to do. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's one thing I do in the off season.
Okay.
Do a
I
lot of,
like it.
yeah.
I like it. What's your favorite meal? So if you get
Mm.
your all-time favorite meal, Coach Potter, like you can have whatever you want. Like this evening, you can just ask, like snap like that. That's the way the podcast works. Is I can just have whatever that meal is to you at this moment. What is it?
Well, my if my family hears this, which they probably don't, but they'll shake their head. But I have
Hmm.
this little snack that I eat all the time, and it's it's I hesitate. They laugh at the name, but
Uh huh.
I call it bluegerts.
Okay. Never heard this before. What is this?
All right, so this is you take yogurt,
Uh
right?
huh.
The gurt part. So you take
Right.
yogurt, and usually it's vanilla or something like that. And if you're hungry, you can do two, but usually I
Hmm.
just do one small container. And then so you put that in there. You put some blueberries, some frozen blueberries in there,
Hmm.
and you put some dark chocolate chips in there,
Hmm.
and some whipped cream, right?
Okay.
And there you go, bluegerts, and it's actually really good. I mean,
Oh, I bet you that's amazing. That sounds really good.
when you get old like
Uh
me,
huh.
I mean, but that's got protein. Dark chocolate's good for you. You got fruit. I mean, it's a miracle
Hmm.
food, blueberries, and so you can't really beat it.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I mean, if I went to the store to buy
Hmm.
something, if like I wasn't married and it was just me,
Hmm.
90% of it would probably be yogurt.
So we're looking at a very different Coach Potter if you're not married right now. Like that's the saving grace from you just not being just
My
yeah.
marriage saves me from a life of monotony. Yeah,
Hmm. That's
because
funny.
I'm a creature of routine, man. I don't.
I am too, though. Creature routine, there's nothing wrong with being a creature routine. It keeps you going, and there is something I've always said there's something beautiful in the monotony and just doing that routine and just having it. There's comfort there. There's comfort in having the routine, and there's understanding, and it's good for anxiety. For me, like that's just one of those things that just routine's good.
Yeah, and well, you don't have to think about it.
Correct.
So your mind can go to and be placed on things that are more important,
Yes.
right? Than what you're going to eat for dinner. You know,
Oh, so I have a question for you then. Are you a person, have you ever, because I do this with the Sports Renaissance one, where I like, there's a certain amount of, I think I got this from Saban, and I know you spoke glowingly about meeting him in another
Mhm.
interview, and I do take this to heart. Is like he has the same breakfast and lunch every day because it's fewer decisions that he has to make throughout the day and things to think about. And sometimes by the end of the night with the Sports Renaissance woman, I'm like, I'm out of decisions. Like I'm out. I can't answer anymore. Like I'm out. I love you, but this is it. Like I can't do anymore. I'm just there's a certain number that you can do a day, and you're like, I just can't. This is why routine is so important because you wouldn't think decision making would exhaust a person, but it really there's only so many that you can have when you start your day early. There's
No,
only so many.
there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's the same reason. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spend any bandwidth on what I'm going to eat or what I'm going to wear. So I'm pretty nondescript in both days. But if you find something you like and it works, why think about it anymore? Just move on. So
What makes high school football in Chattanooga different than the rest of the state?
well, that's hard for me to answer, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
because um, it's we're almost not in Chattanooga anymore.
Yeah.
It's been years since we've really played anybody in here. I mean,
Mhm.
so I mean, we're just almost totally separate.
What
Um,
would you put yourself in then?
well, I mean, we're in the Division two,
Yeah.
3A, and
Mhm.
so it's a group that's all of us have pretty good teams. All of
Mhm.
us have big coaching staffs. All of us have weight rooms that are pretty sophisticated with strength coaches. So it's almost like a little small college type deal. And so it's just, and it's not really fair. I mean, it's not fair to. I mean, there are certain public schools that can do it, but for most folks, I respect the heck out of the job they're doing at places where they've got to line the field off, and they're the strength coach and they're the trainer, and they've got to order the equipment and make sure everybody gets equipment and stuff like that. I mean, um, those people are salt of the earth as far as I'm concerned, and but we don't, and guys in our league. I mean, we're just trying to beat each other scheme wise and that kind of thing. I mean, it's a different type thing.
Do you enjoy being more of the CEO than a play caller?
Well, I'm still calling
Well,
defenses.
I'm saying like in general, because you've had both. Like if you could just have like a CEO type role where you're just in charge of overseeing everything, or would you just miss being a play caller too much?
I don't think I would like the CEO thing. I
Okay.
understand it's necessary, at a
Mhm.
certain level. Um, and so I really do understand that. And at some point that might be okay. But I mean, I'm an X and O guy. That's kind of
Mhm.
what I enjoy it, and I enjoy the game. I enjoy the tactics and the strategy, and you know, that's kind of who I am. So I would miss it if I did something different.
What was the best advice your dad gave you about coaching?
Be yourself. I mean, he did two things really. I don't. He it was the purpose of football, the
Mhm.
purpose of high school football. That was a big one because, obviously everybody's objective is to win. We want to win state championships and all that kind of stuff. But he always kind of put it in that, you're pursuing that objective, but your purpose, your underlying purpose is bigger than that. And it's
Mhm.
points higher than that. And so that's more of like, we're doing this for an educational reason. We're doing it to provide these young guys some experiences in their life that that God's going to use to mold and develop them, and you're developing relationships with them, and they're having all this, and so you walk with them through that individually, and we don't know exactly what their story is going to be, but we're going to accompany them. um, and so that's the first thing that he taught me. And then the second thing is, just be yourself, because you can try to be somebody else and you try to imitate somebody else, but you can only fight against the grain of your own personality for so long, and then it's not going to work. And so whatever you do, it has to come from within you. And that really helped me with him because I never really tried to be him. I never tried to imitate any, the things that he was doing on offense or defense, or, and obviously I took with me a lot of how he handled people and handled the teams, but I never consciously said, what would Pete do in
Mhm.
this situation? It was more like, how do I've got a problem. How am I going to make this work? How do I make it work? And because it's got to come from within the person that's the leader. And so and he helped me see that right away. And that was took a lot of pressure off. you know.
Was it hard though because they saw your last name and they just assumed it would be a certain way and you had to kind of like prove yourself in a different kind of way early on?
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard. And so, but life sucks, man. You just got to keep rolling. Like, I mean, everybody's got their issues and but yeah, it was hard.
Do you know how long you want to do this?
I mean, I as long as I'm healthy and happy and that I'm contributing, I really feel like that, Joel Bradford, our offensive coordinator, is, ready to, step into that at any time. And so really at this point, it's more of a timing thing. So, it's just it's just more of when I feel like the time is right. And so that it could be, you know, it could be I've always operated honestly on a 1 year mindset.
Hmm.
It could be anywhere between, a couple years to another, I'm 50, I'll be 59 in June. So it could be another, 5 or 6, 7 years. I'm not sure I'm not sure I want to be one of the guys who, dies in harness. You know, my dad was that kind of guy. I mean, he didn't mean to be, but he was really looking forward to sort of not doing it, and got sick and got cancer when he was 61 and died when he was 64, and so I'm approaching that age, so that gives you a little pause. So that all that stuff just goes through your mind. Um, and on one hand, you kind of want to let another generation come through. On another hand, you don't want to leave too early because I'm probably doing better now than I ever have, and so I don't want to deprive that or not let people have that. So I don't know. It's a little complicated thing, but I do it. This will be like my 29th year to be a head coach, and I can honestly tell you, I do it on a year by year basis.
You've been coaching for almost the entirety of my life.
There
Not trying to date you, Coach Potter, but there you go.
you go. Yeah. Yeah.
It is interesting. The coaching profession, like it, I think what we're going to see, and you're seeing this trickle down from the NFL level down to the high school level, is that you're asked to do a lot more based on the coaches I've talked to. Is there's a lot more involved than what it was 20 years ago, and like social media complicates this significantly across the board. There's a lot more micromanaging. There's a lot more stuff that you have to put up with, and now I think there's like two avenues in coaching where it's like the Sean McVay, where you want to get in early, you want to win a ring, and then you feel comfortable walking away at 40, where you're like, I got my ring, I proved myself, and
Yeah.
now I'm getting out of this. Like I think, and then you have the other side where it's like, I am comfortable. I did my time. I am comfortable year to year, and I'm older, like the Belichick, Andy Reid type thing, where I don't really let any of that phase me. I know who I am. I'm good. I'm having a blast. I don't really let the noise affect me. But there's not really that middle ground anymore, like the 15-year coordinator who grinds and gets a shot at 52 and then does it for a couple. Like that doesn't really exist. It just seems like you're either going to be the young hotshot Lincoln Riley and you get elevated really quick, or
Yeah.
you're going to be they're going to go the Mac Brown route where they're going to go, all right, let's bring in the CEO who knows and is comfortable in his own skin and will enjoy all the other stuff because they miss being a part of it. I don't know. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Yeah, there could be. I mean, you've laid out a pretty good case for that, right, right there. Yeah, I know that you're right. You're very right when you say that there are more demands placed on you. I mean, it's even in high school, it's a
Yeah.
lot more complicated job than it used to be, and it changes all the time.
I
And
haven't talked to a coach who's like, you know what? Things are easier now. Like I've my job is a lot easier than it was 10 years ago. Haven't had that conversation yet.
yeah, I worry. I worry about it all, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the college game is the one that I think is really going to change a lot. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't talked to too many college coaches that were just ecstatic. I mean, I think it's really, really tough on them.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because there's there's no czar, there's no CEO, there's no commissioner to do it. Every conference is doing their own thing, and every school can do their own thing, and with NIL, every university can do their own thing, and it's just I will push back on some stuff when people complain about and how that will change the haves and the have-nots in college football because that's always been the case. It will always be the case. That's not really changed. They just have a different kind of advantage. Like NIL was never going to be the difference maker between Mississippi State becoming the next Alabama. That was never going to be a thing. Starkville was always going to be Starkville, and there's nothing wrong with them. Like it's great, but there's a reason that being number one in the nation with Dak years ago was like a one-time blip. Like it's just hard. You don't have the resources. It's just unlikely that you're going to be able to put that together. But NIL is actually like something that could help smaller schools like Eastern Michigan just being like, hey, I'm Charlie Batch and I went to Eastern Michigan. Here's 1.2 million for Caleb Williams to come here for a year. That can help you. Like he didn't do it, but I mean, it's just another avenue. But I don't think that really changes. It's just more stuff to keep up with. Compliance is now just such a big thing. And there's no central figure, authority figure who is just like, hey, we need to have this, like the transfer portal window. Like you can just leave in the middle of the season now. Like we saw that with Tennessee. Like I'm here and guys just left in the middle of the season. Like you can just walk out on your team now, and that's it because there's no governing body to be like, hey, we should probably step in and like put a rule here where there's a transfer window. Like the portal is good, but here's the time you can, and here's the time you can't. Like that's just something you would think would be super easy, but if you talk to these college coaches, it's like no, like there's no one to do that because you can't do that because every conference does their own thing, and it's not like the NCAA can step in and just make these rules. I don't know. I agree with you. College is the most up in the air, but it's also just like they saw this train coming. Like there's no college coach who did not see this day coming 20 years from now. It's just they never did anything. And then one day the dam broke and everything came out. They did not prepare at all. And now it's too late. The cat's out of the bag. And once it's too late, you can't go back. So I don't know. I'll still enjoy it, but it's a different world for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's really going to change. It has to. So anyway,
adapt. I mean, hey, it's adapt or die in sports, man. Well, the last thing I want to ask you, and we'll wrap up here, Coach. Your school is a little bit different. Like it's a all day prep school for boys, and that's a different type of thing. So I wanted to get your perspective. What is the difference coaching in that environment? What would you say is the biggest difference in coaching at a high school like yours?
Oh, it's just such a privilege,
Mm-hmm.
really. And it's kind of what I was mentioning before. I mean, I've got a strength coach who has a staff. I've got a trainer, full-time trainer who has a staff. I've got a guy that handles the equipment for me. I've got people that plan our trips. I mean, all I have to do is just deal with the boys and the coaches and prepare a team to play. And so, that's the biggest thing. And I don't take that for granted at all. And then, the other thing is, just the fact that, the kids are, for the most part, really bright. They're motivated and self-driven. And so if you can manage to get the culture where you want it, we've been able over the last 5 or 6 years, especially, to create a situation where the seniors that are coming up take control of that culture and they pass it down from one class to the next. And, when you get it in that situation, I tell our coaches after every year, I said, just, it's not broke. Don't fix it. Just keep it, and so we'll see how long it lasts, but it's just, you're dealing with some guys that are really highly motivated, and, that's a pleasure to deal with.
Awesome. Well, there you go, Coach. How did the good folks support your program in the first? Is there anything you would like to plug or mention that folks in the Tennessee area can do to support the McCallie football program?
Oh, well, go on YouTube and like all our videos.
Mm-hmm.
We have a bunch of those, and come see us, come watch us play. I mean, it's a pretty exciting brand of football. So
Do you have another Georgia school on the calendar this fall?
we're playing Woodward Academy,
Okay.
the second game of the year at Finley Stadium.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
We're
Well,
playing
maybe I'm gonna.
yeah,
Yeah.
playing a team from this is where we are. We're playing a team from Georgia. We're playing a team
Mm.
from Virginia. We're playing a
Oh
team
wow.
Toronto, Canada, and one from Utah,
Oh wow. All in the same season.
all in the same season. Yeah,
That's a lot. Are you traveling for? How many of those are you traveling for?
they're all coming here.
Okay. That works out. Okay. That
Mm,
works out a little bit better. I might
yeah,
have to pop in for the Woodward game.
yeah,
See what this is all about. I might have to do it. Coach
good.
Potter, well, thank you so much for making the time. I greatly appreciate it. This has been a blast. I've learned a lot, and I hope the listeners have learned a lot about you and your program. You do great work, man, and you've been a huge success, and I wish you all the success in the future. And we'll have to do this again soon.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and good luck to you.